After the success of Lost Planet 1, Capcom decided to make Lost Planet 2, and in 2010 we got it for Windows, PS3, Xbox 360, and the BlackBerry.
What?
So, first things first, I want to start with the negatives. My biggest gripe with this game is the weapon unlock system. The way you unlock weapons is with a slot machine. You have to earn points to be able to spin the wheel and earn the chance to unlock a weapon. The other options are clothes, emotes, titles, and perks, so out of the 5 options, only 2 of them actually affect gameplay. And I don't know if it's bad luck, but I mostly received cosmetics. And let's do some quick math. Let's say for every level of the campaign we do, we get 2 chances for the slot machine. And I had to replay 3 of them because I had to factory reset my laptop. So in total, I beat 24 levels, 3 of those being the ones I replayed. So I had 48 chances to spin the wheel. Out of the 48 times I spun the wheel, which is probably less than what I actually spun, I won 2 weapons! And the way the weapon system works is your character has set weapons they can pick up on the map that are put in different categories. Basic, long range, short range, and support. I won a close range weapon, the revolver, and a long range weapon, rifle 2, because if the rifle is so good then there should be a sequel. Now, unlocking these weapons doesn't mean I can have the default close range, the shotgun, and the revolver both on the map. It means I can choose between the 2. And well, the shotgun makes this noise. So I stuck with it. Luckily, I liked Rifle 2 more than the default rifle, because if I didn't, I would have played with the base weapons for the entire 10-hour plus long campaign. An easy solution would be to just allow the player to use the points to buy the weapons instead. Now with that issue discussed, what do I think of the rest of the game?
Hey, that's pretty good.
The game is much faster paced, with even the versus weapons being usable on the ground as you reload so much quicker. The grappling hook actually felt useful as not only is it quicker to deploy, but the levels are much more vertical, requiring you to use the hook. The environments are much more varied as well, with environments ranging from the tropical jungle to an underwater military base to the desert. The story is also much more fun to go through, as while the action scenes in the original were pretty good, these new ones are fantastic, especially when near the end of the game, which I'll talk about later. So on to the new things they added. Well, there's a whole character customization aspect in the game, where you can give your character different weapons, titles, emotes, and perks. Unfortunately, the only part of this that carries over to the campaign are the weapons. However, after you beat the campaign, you are free to use your custom character. Now, for arguably the biggest change, how they reworked how thermal healing works. Back in Lost Planet 1, as long as you had thermal, you were basically unkillable. In Lost Planet 2, you do still get a ton of thermal, however there are 3 key things that have changed about how thermal works that makes it much more balanced. First, the rate at which you heal is drastically slower, meaning a solid hit means much more in this game than Lost Planet 1. Second, having thermal energy does not save you if your life reaches 0. And third, if you hold down on the D-pad, you get in a stance where you start manually healing yourself. This heals you extremely quickly, but a single hit interrupts the process. However, you can move around while in the stance. Overall, I love the changes they made. It makes every hit dealt to you feel much more impactful, and they made your character much more fragile. However, while in Lost Planet 1, when you died once, you got a game over, and Lost Planet 2, they have implemented a new system, the battle gauge. A blue bar in the top left corner of the screen. Every time you die, you lose 500 points. When you reach 0, it's game over. However, there are ways to replenish the battle gauge, such as raising checkpoints. Also, the checkpoints have been improved since Lost Planet 1 as well, as now they not only show the map around you, but also act as respawn points. Some new mechs they added are this frame mech, that can not only throw grenades, but can also clothesline people to ensure that not only is their windpipe crushed, but their entire spine is as well. Then there is a straight up and down helicopter that took me a while to figure out how to pilot, but once I did, it was super fun. And this mech, that looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh card, I got it 2 times, and both times it immediately died. Because something else they changed in this game is the mech durability. Back in Lost Planet 1, mechs needed specific weapons like the rocket launcher or the plasma rifle to take them down when on foot. However, now the mechs are much more vulnerable, with you being able to take them down with standard weapons. This doesn't mean the mechs are weak, it just means that if you jump into a group of enemies, you'll die horribly. However, to balance out this aspect, you can hop out of the mech and repair it. You can even use the mech as cover while repairing it. They also added 2 new machines that you can ride/equip, but don't have any weapons of their own, and instead you fire your own weapons while riding them. The first one is what is essentially the Staps from the prequel trilogy. They can fly anywhere and are pretty effective at drive-bys. However, the battlesuit is just plain sick. It's essentially a second life bar, which sounds lame, but that second life bar gives you hyper armor, allowing you to just walk through gunfire like Superman. Except unlike Superman, you have a shotgun and no mercy. Some of the new Acrid are pretty cool, like these spiky boys who charge you down and whose legs can be shot off to slow them down. These massive sea serpents who remind me to never not fear the ocean. And these beasts who rely on hearing to figure out where you are. So as long as you stay still, they won't find you during their call. Also, if Kezu's mouth looked like this, I think people would find him a lot scarier. However, something really cool they did is have Acrid wearing military-grade weaponry. The coolest one being the spider with a flamethrower and missile pods. You now could also have AIT members, and they're okay. There isn't a whole lot to say about them except for the fact that they will emote at the end of levels and sometimes after getting a kill. So now I get to talk about my favorite thing about this game, the bosses. In the original Lost Planet 1, while you knew the bosses were big, the camera tended to be zoomed out so they didn't feel big. The best example of this is the fight against the Queen in Lost Planet 1 versus its Lost Planet 2 counterpart. In Lost Planet 1, you could tell it is big, however, its position in the middle of the screen makes it not feel as big as it actually is. However, in Lost Planet 2, it takes up the entire screen, only when you're on this set of platforms that it doesn't take up the entire screen. While there are many bosses that show up during the middle of episodes, I want to talk about the final boss of each episode. First, we have Gordian, a six-legged walking cucumber. The build up to this fight is fantastic. You walk into a valley, the rain pouring down. There are destroyed mechs littering the ground. Thunder is roaring, and you have no clue what's going on. When suddenly, this creature that could eat a school bus shows up, and you realize the game is telling you to kill this massive creature. There are two really cool things about this fight. First is the fact that if you shoot the kneecaps enough, the legs come off, which slows it down. However, the other cool thing about this fight is that if you shoot off enough of its legs, it will fall down, with its mouth agape, and you can walk right on inside and blast its insides. However, when I finally had the opportunity to do this, I decided to run to the end to see what happens, and oh, and yeah, the music during this fight is great. Next is the Acrid X, a massive skeletal Acrid. What's incredibly cool about this fight is that in this episode, you have been sent to capture a massive artillery cannon. I'll talk more about this beauty later. And when you find it, Acrid X lands on it and tries to do something to it. I'm not sure what its plan was, but the operator blasts it, destroying its head and arm, and drives off. However, the body then starts moving, and you then have to fight this thing as it's regenerating, and it's doing all this cool stuff like firing beams and climbing buildings and jumping around. And near the end of the fight, it has nearly fully regenerated from getting its face blown off. It is absolutely my second favorite boss fight. Also, it apparently comes from space, so that's neat. The episode 4 boss is Tentacle 8, a submarine fight, and it's okay. I do like the design and the fact you're going up and down this underwater tower, but just isn't as cool as the other fights. Episode 5 has you fighting an enemy overland battleship. For context, you're a bunch of pirates who have stolen an overland battleship of their own, and see the second one and the leader thinks to himself,
"This will make a fine addition to my collection,"
and decides to attack this other ship. This fight is my second least favorite in the game. You fire this really slow charging laser at different pieces of the ship until it falls apart, and you can board and take a checkpoint. There is, however, a really cool spider mini-boss earlier in the episode that, while it's not the best, it is a fun time and a cool design with a grand scale to it. Episode 6 stars the Overg, the final boss. For context, the Overg was a big fan of the Ice Age movies. However, once he learned Blue Sky Studios shut down and there wouldn't be any more Ice Age movies, he became depressed. However, one day, he had an idea. If I absorb all the thermal energy on the planet, I could make my own Ice Age. So he started his plan. However, one thing he didn't account for is, if he does this, every other creature on the planet will die. So it's our job to stop the Overg from making a 6th movie, which at the time of writing is apparently being made, so I guess we live in the timeline where the Overg won. Anyways, how was the fight? Well, you shoot at orange tentacles until they become hard. Well, it fires projectiles that will kill you in one hit. Simple enough, right? No, there is a wrench in this fight that makes it the worst in the game in my opinion. Once you make a tentacle solid, you need to run up to it, grapple onto it, and attach a tablet so we could drop an entire space station on top of the thing. Man, for its issues, I can't stay mad at this game. However, my issue with this is the fact that the game does not tell you need to grapple onto the tentacle. It does tell you to attach the tablet to it, but it doesn't say to grapple to it, which is a very key part of it. If I didn't look up how to beat the thing after fighting it for about 10 to 20 minutes, I would have never figured that out. Maybe it's something I missed, but for the game that has had people remind you of the objective if you're taking too long, this feels like a time when it should have had it. Now, people who have played Lost Planet 2 or have been paying attention might have noticed I skipped episode 3, and there is a reason. It's my favorite episode of the game, so I want to dedicate a whole section of the video to it. It starts with a group of sand pirates on their way back home after stealing a thermal generator. However, on their way back, they encounter the second biggest creature of the game, only being overshadowed by the Overg, the Red Eyes. It's so big, it is eating the train as it's speeding across the sand, so the goal is to try and just slow it down. As it's so big, rocket launchers just annoy it. However, it still eats most of the train, but we manage to escape to a small town, where we are then ambushed by a group of raiders. After fending them off, those noise-sensitive Acorn I mentioned earlier show up, and we have to take care of them. Once that's done, we steal the raiders' train and head back to the desert. We then encounter another train. However, there is something special about this one. It's carrying the same model of artillery cannon we saw back at episode 2. So we eventually hop onto the train and slowly eliminate everyone on this train, constantly jumping between rails to get further onto the train. This part is especially exhilarating, as I've always loved action scenes on trains. It's an underrated action set piece. Anyways, after clearing out everyone, the Red Eye shows up, and thus starts my favorite boss fight in the game. But wait, didn't our weapons basically do nothing to the Red Eyes? Well, that's where the artillery cannon comes in, and now it's finally time for me to just gush about this cannon. It's a massive cannon so big, it requires 2 trains to take it anywhere. It's actually based off a railway cannon called Schwerer Gustav, which was used by Germany during World War II. It also required 2 trains to pull it, and its firing range was 51,000 yards, or nearly 3 miles. This thing could literally shoot you from another country. Its rounds were also massive. Not only did it use the largest caliber ever used in military combat, they were also the heaviest. Basically, what I'm trying to explain is, this cannon is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and if I could marry it, I would. But the version used in Lost Planet 2 has another special feature. It can power up the rounds, which turns this thing from a cannon to a Metal Gear. However, while this thing can pack a punch, it'd be nearly impossible to use just by yourself. Luckily, you have 3 AI who know exactly what they're doing. They'll do everything needed to prepare the gun. All you need to do is aim and fire, and repair the gun when it's on fire. All of this while finding the Red Eye leads to an absolutely fantastic fight. It might look boring looking in, but just trying to manage getting the cannon ready, aiming it, and firing it is all exhilarating. That, and the fact you're racing through the desert on a train, trying to not fall off as the Red Eyes attacks. With the finale being you trying to turn the cannon to aim at the core of the Red Eyes as it's about to eat the train whole, which all culminates into one final shot. And with that, it ends the beautiful symphony that is this fight. I absolutely love this fight, and I know some people that will disagree with me on this, but I think this fight is better than Darren Moran and Jen Moran from Monster Hunter. There's just something about this fight that I've never seen replicated to its quality. I only wish I could have played this game in its heyday and experienced this fight with friends. This episode is everything I love about the game in it. a cool and unique set piece, thrilling action and cutscenes, cool acrid, and sheer spectacle that only Asura's Wrath can compete with. That, and how it connects to the rest of the story. See, after the fight with the Red Eyes, we see the Overg over the horizon, as it has destroyed the town where these sand pirates live, so they go full speed ahead so that they can get their revenge. And in the final episode, we play as a different group trying to get to the Overg, but we are blocked by a barrier. We have no clue how to get past it, but someone hacks into the comm lines and says they're going to take it down. And the person on the other end is the character we played as in episode 3, riding the train to the Overg. What follows is one of the coolest action scenes I've ever seen, and my favorite scene in the entire game. The cutscene is over 2 minutes long, so I can't show you the whole thing, but I could show you my favorite parts of it. So overall, I love this game, as it's a category of game I love called Spectacle Game. It's not meant to make you think, it's meant to make you have fun and look at cool stuff. Basically, if you're not a critic or a game journalist, you'll probably like this game, and I hope one day it gets remastered for modern consoles. But after beating a creature who's about to destroy the whole planet, where do you take the story now? Not forwards, but backwards with the prequel Lost Planet 3.